I call it the postprandial red tide. It's this tide of these toxic molecules flood through the tissues. And this tide has properties. It's what do we unleash on our tissues? We think we're Americans, we can eat what we want, but we're really unleashing this tide that is fatty and salty and sugary and antigenic and acid forming, and mutagenic and carcinogenic and atherogenic and pro-inflammatory and disruptive to most of the bodily enzyme functions in the entire system. This is the truth of the red tide. Now, when a real flood tide from a river, the ocean, is flowing through your house, it's pretty distressing to watch your sofa float down the street, I grant. But what's really causing you distress from all that flood water in your house is what you know is going to be left behind by those dirty, contaminated flood waters. It seeps into the tissues of the house, and that's why you wind up ripping out the carpet and the baseboards and the wall timbers. This is the truth of a tide and what it leaves behind. Well, the red tide leaves its own stain behind in your tissue, its own stain of disease and dysfunction. An important equation here is the food effects from the meal over time equals the health effects that you see in your body and that you eventually bring to your doctor. And I can't overestimate the importance of time. You know, the Colorado River cut the Grand Canyon day after day after day after day. This is the power of persistence. Well, you eat 3 meals a day. That's 1,000 times a year you have poured the red tide, assuming you're eating a standard Western diet, through your tissues. Your people are keeping these toxic molecules in their bloodstream essentially constantly. And we can't be shocked when dysfunction, disease shows up in the tissues. And I tell the young doctors, when you open the door of the exam room and you see the man there with the clogged arteries having angina, you see the type 2 diabetic injecting insulin, you see the dairy-loving lady with her bad acne, you see the man struggling with obesity. These are not random events. They are not just, oh, you got bad genes and just a family history of it. This is what you're looking at as a result of repeated red tides flowing through that person's body day after day, month after month, year after year. And I tell my fellow clinicians who are recommending paleo diets and keto diets, really, doctor, are you really sincerely telling your patients that it's a good thing for them to be keeping these molecules flowing through their tissues day after day, month after month, year after year? They think that's a good thing. Yes, you keep on keeping these molecules in your tissues. And then we're surprised, we're shocked when the patient's body becomes inflamed. We're puzzled when the atherosclerotic plaques start building up in the arteries. Gee, we're amazed that their gut wall got leaky and they wound up with lupus or some autoimmune disease. And that cancer that popped out of their colon wall, gee, yeah, just bad luck, must have bad genes. Really, doctor? Can we, how dare we as scientists who can recognize a malfunctioning gene on gene A21 on chromosome 14. Boy, we can identify that with precision. But we're puzzled, we're mystified as we totally ignore the effect of the patient's daily diet on these diseases they bring to us. I remind my colleagues that the adage we practice our healing under, do no harm, applies to dietary advice as well. Now, I agree. Now, the paleo docs and the keto docs, hey, but my patients get better. They lose weight, their lipids get better, their diabetes gets better. Don't tell me this isn't bad. This diet works for them. It's a good diet. I'll say, yeah, there are some initial beneficial changes, but I say don't be seduced by these early changes. I'll ask you as clinicians, what are you really brewing? What's this diet really brewing up in these patients' artery walls? What's this diet really doing to the walls in their colon? What are you doing to this lady's breast tissue? What's this diet doing to this man's prostate? And what are you doing to the blood vessels in the brain? Yeah, you get this initial weight loss, and they're happy with that. Why? And you see this initial improvement. Why? Because most of these diets eliminate products that everybody agrees are troublemakers. They say no caveman ever milked a dairy cow. They didn't squeeze olive oil on their salad. They didn't grind wheat into flour to make donuts. So if you eliminate the dairy and oil and the flours from the diet, people will get leaner. I agree. And their lipids will get better and their diabetes will get better just for the weight loss. But again, we are not carnivorous apes. We're plant-eating hominids. And a flesh-based diet violates natural law. And I think these folks following this diet over time, over 10 years, are setting themselves up for an epidemic of colon cancer and heart attacks and strokes and autoimmune diseases, rampant type 2 diabetes. It's a great recipe to foster bacteria in the gut wall that's going to lead to Crohn's disease and colitis. And I think it's an invitation to epidemic dementia. And so with all respect, I ask my colleagues, do you know what you're doing really as you recommend these diets for life? And yet these practitioners, most of them not going to be around. They give this drive-by medical advice. Say, oh yeah, you ought to eat paleo, you ought to eat keto. And you don't see them again. Or you see a different doc, you move away, the doc moves away. And I ask you, you're going to be around in 10 years when this lady has her stroke from that carotid plaque, your paleo diet spawned in her arteries. You're going to be around 15 years when this guy passes his first bloody stool from that colon cancer, your keto diet spawned in her gut. You won't be around to see this. They're long gone. But meanwhile, these people are going to be stuck with the results of this kind of unnatural dietary advice. We're Americans. We can eat what we want. Yeah, but your arteries got something to say about that. Your colon wall's got something to say about that. Your prostate or your breast tissue got something to say about that. We've been treating our patients' diets like in the Harry Potter movie, the Voldemort, you know, the words, the name must not be spoken. Ooh, don't ask about the patient's diet. Ooh, that's cultural. They can eat what they want. Yeah, but the body's got something to say about that, and that's resulting in this epidemic of degenerative diseases we're all facing, both as doctors and patients. Nobody's eaten a paleo diet for 20 years. Nobody's eaten a keto diet for 3 decades. But I'm afraid we're doing this experiment, and the results are going to be disastrous.